Chapter 9. Jesse had just finished feeding the livestock when a movement in the nearby brush caught his eye. Dropping his hand to the hilt of the revolver on his side, Jesse approached the brush. He expected a wild animal, or perhaps an escaped calf, but he was unprepared for the tattered and dirty creature he found instead. Miss Whidby? Her dark hair was a tangled, matted mess, with stray grass and weeds sticking out of it. Her dress, once probably clean and beautiful, was now covered in dirt and ripped in several places. Scratches lined her arms and face, their angry red marks standing in steep contrast to her alabaster skin. "Bill," she said softly, and her eyes fluttered open for just a moment.
"No, it's Jesse Jennings, or Deputy Jennings."
When she didn't respond, Jesse leaned down and picked her up. Her head flopped against his shoulder, but even in her current disheveled state, he could still smell a soft, flowery scent. After a quick glance around to make sure no one was lying in ambush, Jesse hurried toward his house, barely feeling the weight of the woman in his arms. He kicked open the door, crossed to his bedroom, and laid her down on the bed. Unsure where to begin, Jesse grabbed a rag and dipped it in the wash basin. He wished he had someone he could send to fetch Doc Moore, but there was no one close. He would have to do what he could to patch her up and then load her up in his wagon when he was sure she could make the trip. He brought the wet cloth back to the bed and touched a red mark on her cheek. She elicited a slight moan, but her eyes remained closed. What had happened to her? And who was Bill? One at a time, he cleaned out the scratches and wiped the dirt off her face and arms. After 3 washings of the rag, he had cleaned off all the dirt and scratches he could see. With nothing else to do except wait for her to wake up, he covered her with a blanket, shut and locked the front door, and stretched out on the floor beside her. The sun had set completely when he awoke later to the sound of Miss Whidby's voice. "God, please don't let him find me. Please, Lord, protect me." She thrashed from side to side as if having a nightmare.
"Shh, Miss Whidby."
He placed a hand on her head in hopes of comforting her.
"You're having a bad dream, that's all."
Her eyes snapped open. They were a deep blue, like he imagined the color of the ocean at its deepest point might be. For a moment they were dazed, glancing from left to right as she took in the surroundings. Then they landed on him, and she scooted farther back on the bed. "Deputy Jennings? Where am I? How did I get here?"
"I found you in the brush by my barn. Can you tell me what happened?"
Her eyes closed, and for a moment he thought she had fallen asleep again. "I was looking for you."
"For me? Why?"
Her eyes opened. "I found him. The robber."
"You found him?"
Anger surged through Jesse. Had he been the one to injure Miss Whidby as well? Jesse wanted to tear out of the house and hunt the man down, but he needed a name, a description, something.
"Who is he?"
Jesse asked, but Miss Whidby had passed out again. Jesse growled in frustration and fought the urge to shake her. Whatever she had gone through must have been terrible, and she needed her rest, but there would be no more rest for him, not until she awoke again and could tell him what happened. Kate stirred as the first rays of morning light filtered in through the windows. Where am I?" Kate struggled to sit up. Her head pounded and the room tilted in an unusual manner.
"Don't move too fast,"
a male voice said. Kate looked to the voice, surprised to see Deputy Jennings's face looking back at her. She pulled the blanket up to her chin and shied away from him. He held out his hand, and reluctantly Kate took it, allowing the deputy to help her sit up and lean against the headboard. As soon as the deputy released her hand, he stepped back, as if her very presence was fire. He crossed his arms and met her gaze. Kate wondered if there ever had been warmth in his brown eyes.
I found you on my property last night, and you were in pretty bad shape.
Kate closed her eyes and shook her head slowly. I didn't know where you lived. I was just trying to get to Sage Creek to find you, because you were the only lawman I know.
Yes, you said as much last night. You said you found him, the robber.
A light seemed to enter him as he spoke of the robber. Yes, I found him, or rather he found me. Kate elicited a most unladylike snort. I almost married him. His name is Bill Easterly. At least that's the name he gave me. He's a rancher in Lisbon.
He lives that close?
Kate blinked at the anger oozing from Deputy Jennings' voice. He took me to his house. I am not familiar with the area, but I tried to memorize the route. I could probably find it again. His eyes snapped up to meet hers, and a fire blazed in them before he sighed.
No, we need to get you to Doc Moore first. What happened out there anyway?
Kate bit the inside of her lip as the hazy images came back to her. I ran from the church as soon as I knew it was him. He wore gloves all day, but he took them off for the ceremony, and I saw the scar. There was a horse outside. I'm ashamed to say I stole it.
I think the owner would understand.
Deputy Jennings broke in. It still wasn't right. Kate sighed. I don't even know whom to repay, nor do I have any money to do it. Anyway, before I was out of town, he must have realized I had escaped. Shots were fired at me. I don't know if he fired them, as I didn't look back, but I hadn't gotten far when I heard horses catching up to me. Knowing he had the upper hand with having knowledge of the land, I dismounted as soon as I saw some tall brush and sent the horse loose.
But all the scratches and cuts,
he began. Kate rolled her eyes. I got lost a few times, had to climb a few fences, and as I hadn't brought water with me, I am pretty sure I ended up dehydrated. I am honestly surprised I got as close as I did.
Just another reason we should have Doc Moore check you out. Do you feel up to traveling?
Kate performed a mental check of her body. She ached all over and felt a little dizzy, but she attributed that to lack of food. Yes, I think I'm all right. Could we possibly eat before we go? She asked, placing her hand on her stomach. I can't remember my last solid meal.
I'm not much of a cook.
Deputy Jennings held out a hand to help her up.
But I'll try to throw some breakfast together.
Kate took his hand and stood, but she had moved too quickly, and the room began to sway. Her knees buckled, but the deputy's strong arms caught her, and she fell against his chest. She looked up into his eyes, and a flicker of warmth stirred in their chocolatey depths. This was the feeling she had hoped to see from Bill Easterly. But what was she supposed to do with it from the deputy? He was not the one who had agreed to marry her.
Here, I got you.
He wrapped an arm around her, but averted his gaze as he led her out of the bedroom and to the kitchen. He helped her into a chair at the table before turning toward the stove. For the first time since she met him, Kate caught a glimpse of what he must have been like before his fiancée's death. His stiff demeanor softened as he pulled out a skillet and set it on the stovetop. After lighting the stove, he cracked a few eggs into the skillet and added a few slices of bread. Moments later, he was scraping half of the contents of the skillet onto a plate and heading back in her direction.
It isn't much, Miss Whidby.
He handed her the plate and a fork.
But I wasn't expecting company.
Please, call me Kate, she said as she took the plate. I feel like now that you've seen me at my worst, we should at least be on a first-name basis. The deputy ducked his head, but nodded.
Then you should call me Jesse. Deputy Jennings is too formal anyway.
Thank you, Jesse. She took a bite of the eggs and tried not to make a face. Kate had cooked often with her mother and knew something wasn't right with the eggs. Her hunger, however, kept her shoveling the food in. Jesse filled his own plate and sat across from her. As he took his first bite, Kate chuckled, as his face scrunched in disgust as well. His brown eyes met hers and he smirked.
I'm sorry, I am not the best cook. I always went to Pauline's house for dinner.
Kate remembered the supper she had shared with Ellen and the others her first time in Sage Creek. Yes, Iris is a wonderful cook. I'm sorry about Pauline. Ellen said she was killed in a bank robbery. Kate hoped she wasn't crossing the line. Jesse dropped his eyes to his plate and pushed the eggs around. After a deep breath, he met her gaze.
She was caught in the crossfire when the robbers were leaving the bank. She lived long enough to tell me that one of the men had a scar on his hand.
Her eyes grew wide as her mouth formed a small O shape. I'm so sorry. No wonder you want to find him so badly.
I promised to avenge her,
Jesse said. Kate could understand that. Why didn't they kill us, I wonder?
Probably because you complied with their demands. There was another deputy in the bank the day Pauline was shot, and my guess is he tried to stop them. Pauline was just an unintended casualty.
Perhaps it is none of my business, but it seems you really loved her.
I did.
Kate chewed on her lip. She had more questions, but did she dare ask them? She probably should abstain, but that had never been her nature. Then why did her family appear so distant towards you? Jesse set his fork down and fixed her with a steady gaze.
Her brother blames me. They asked me to become a deputy when the robberies first started, but I was working on our homestead. I only took on the badge after she was killed, and I think her brother thinks I could have stopped it.
Kate's heart twisted at his words. She wished she knew the right words to help, or that wouldn't be too personal, but as she did not, silence fell between them. When they had both cleaned their plate, Jesse took the dishes and put them in the sink to wash later.
Let's visit Doc Moore to make sure you're all right.
What will I do after? Kate asked quietly. I have no money, and what remains of my clothes are in Bill Easterly's wagon, if he does not get rid of them. She clasped her arms in front of her chest.
Don't worry, he said, approaching her side. We will figure something out. I'm sure Martha Davis will have a room you can stay in for a few days. As soon as we get you checked out, the sheriff and the other deputies and I will create a plan to round up Bill Easterly and return your things.
Jesse sat outside the clinic while Doc Moore examined Kate. He shouldn't feel nervous. After all, he barely knew the woman. But she had been through so much already. The bravery she displayed was admirable. The door opened and Kate stepped out. Thank you, Doctor. It was nice to meet you, Emma, she said, before closing the door behind her. Ah, yes, Emma. The doctor's daughter was back in town after an unfortunate loss of her own. It would make sense to have her assist when a woman patient was involved. Jesse stood, his hat in his hand. He wanted to ask Kate how it went, but that was far too personal. Just cuts and bruises, Kate said, as if reading his mind.
That's wonderful news, Jesse said. Shall we see about getting you a room at the inn?
Yes, thank you. And then I would really like to help you catch Mr. Easterly.
I know that is important, but let's make sure you recover first.
Jesse wanted nothing more than to go after Easterly. In fact, it was taking every ounce of restraint not to head out now. But Kate felt like his responsibility as well, and he could not leave until he knew she would be taken care of. Kate nodded and fell into step beside him. When they reached the inn, Jesse rapped on the door again, and Martha opened it with a warm smile. Well, Deputy Jennings, to what do we owe this pleasure? Jesse tipped his hat.
I'm sure you remember Miss Whidby. She needs a place to stay for a few days.
A sinking feeling flooded Jesse as Martha's smile faltered slightly. "Of course, we can help her out for a few days." Martha opened the door and took Kate inside. As she did, Martha's husband Clark appeared and took Jesse aside.
"We can only give her 2 days, Jesse. Money is tight, and we have to leave the room open for paying customers."
Jesse glanced in the direction the women had gone and shook his head.
"She has nowhere else to go, Clark." "I know, and that's why we're allowing 2 days, but then she'll have to find a job or a husband."
Jesse sighed. They both knew the only job for women in the West right now was at the saloons.
"I understand. Thank you for the 2 days. We'll figure something else out for the rest."
Maybe Pastor Lewis would have some ideas on how to help. Footsteps on the stairs halted any further conversing, and Jesse looked up to see Kate descending with Martha at her side. Kate's tattered dress was gone, and she was now wearing a dark blue cotton dress that, while a little big, accentuated her beautiful blue eyes. "Does it look all right?" she asked, smoothing the skirt with a self-conscious gesture. "Martha was kind enough to loan it to me." Jesse shook his head.
"You look fine, and definitely more suited to riding now than what you were previously wearing."
"Right. Yes," Kate said. "Well, shall we go get the sheriff and see about finding a robber?" Jesse led the way out of the inn and back towards the sheriff's office. Sheriff Johnson looked up from the desk as they entered.
"Afternoon, Jesse. Who's this you got with you?" "This is Kate Whidby. She was robbed outside Belleville by the same gang that robbed our bank and killed Pauline and Dixon." "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am."
Sheriff Johnson nodded at Kate.
"She knows where one of them lives,"
Jesse finished. The sheriff nearly knocked his chair over as he stood and slammed his palms on the desk.
"Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go get the sucker." "Can you draw us a map?"
Jesse asked, turning to Kate. "No, I'm coming with you." Jesse shook his head.
"There's no way you are coming with us. It's too dangerous. What if Mr. Easterly is still there?"
"Give me a gun, then. I shot with my father and brother. I can protect myself. I'm no good at directions, but I could probably remember the route if I wrote it again." Jesse looked to the sheriff, expecting him to refuse, but the elder man shrugged his shoulders and said,
"If she knows the way, then I guess she rides with us." "Fine, but you do not approach the house with us. We have no idea what we might encounter, so you can take us as far as the homestead, but then you let us go in, understood?"
Kate opened her mouth as if to argue more, but then sighed and nodded.